On to Job Club this morning. We are especially excited to be back in person in the Fayette County office, as well as virtual through Zoom webinar and Facebook Live. So this is an exciting morning for us. We have been a year and a half where we have only been presenting Job Club virtually. So we are now have a new model. And we will continue. For those of you that have joined us virtually, do not worry. We're going to continue presenting in that format, as well as welcoming people in the Central Kentucky area to the local office, the Extension office, to network and to meet in person. So again, just a great welcome to you all. I want to introduce our team. Or first of all, I want you to we'll move on to we got some slides going on. And so I'm looking here to see where we're advancing those, and I'm advancing those. Okay, see, we're getting all this together. Okay, so our agenda for the day is a welcome. We'll have success stories. We've got a great program today. It's going to be a panel of experts, HR experts. We will be sharing active job leads and partner updates. And then we'll be sharing our next time at Job Club. I want to remind everyone of our mission. Beyond my abilities at the moment. I want to remind everyone of our mission to provide a positive environment for job seekers to network and to practice their best practices for the job search. We meet on the second and fourth, third Tuesday of the month. And you can find our schedule at www.ukalumni.net/job club. So check that out online to see all of our upcoming programs. And so I want to introduce our job team, our facilitators, who work behind the scenes, who work until the next time that we present. So they're just a really, really great team to work with. We have Caroline Francis, and she is over here, and she's waving to everybody. She is the Director of Alumni Career Services at UK. Amanda Shagney is the Assistant Director of Alumni Career Services. Nicole Waite is a panelist today, and she's with employment. She is an employment specialist with UK Steps. We also have Suzanne Smith and Sunny Saylor. They're with the Fayette County Extension Office, and Ellie Goodman is here, as well as a new team member, and that is an intern, Grace Herring. And we want to welcome her for the first time to Job Club. Job Club, as I mentioned earlier, is currently hosted in a hybrid format in addition to our in-person. So we will have and continue as long as we can the in-person at the Fayette County office. We have the Zoom webinar, and we have chat moderator available for you to communicate, ask questions, share job leads through that chat box. And then we also have Facebook Live, and that's a view only, no chat moderator or job lead newsletter or lead. We always want to mention that our employers and recruiters are always welcome at Job Club. And in-person employee guests will be provided a 1-minute opportunity to spotlight their job leads, and they can share with the group. And then we will also include those in our newsletter that will go out later this afternoon to those that have either signed in personally or through our Zoom webinar registration. We have a wonderful resource packet that is available to you online, and you can search that. It has just multiple resources there, job search questions and answers and facts, networking opportunities, resume review checklist. Be sure and go to our website and look at that packet so that you can make great use of it. We also have a Central Kentucky Job Club Sharing Community LinkedIn site, and we want you to go there, join, because that's our way to stay in touch with you in between our our 2-week sessions. So we often post wonderful articles there, as well as job leads that may have just become ready for posting. Employers and recruiters are always welcome. And we will, again, we've mentioned that we will allow you those spots to announce your job leads, your active job leads. Some attendees are conducting a confidential job search. And so we always ask that you be respectful of privacy for the job search of others. And you can check out our job-related articles, again, on our Job Club reminder emails, as well as our LinkedIn site. Recordings and PowerPoint slides are available at www.ukalumni.net/jobclub. So you can always go back and revisit a session. So we always like to welcome our first timers. That's just one of our great times that we like to acknowledge that you have found us, and we would like to do that today as well. So do we have anybody that is actually here for the first time? Great, wonderful, wonderful. So we have several in the audience that are, and we are excited you're here. We hope that you will share this research with others, as well as come back to our next session. Online, we do have the ability for you to scan the QR code to complete a survey. So those of you that have signed in, we will send your survey later on this afternoon, just to get some feedback and to get you into our notification system for future programming. This is usually a time when that we always take to announce success stories. And we do not have any today. Last session we had 5. You know, we never know, but this is not real typical because we usually have 1 or 2. But this is just a great time for us to share and celebrate with those that have not only found employment, but have found success in their job search. So has anyone in the audience has something they'd like to share in relation to their quest for employment? Resume update? Anybody had an interview? Anyone done some networking that maybe looks very positive? Those are the kinds of things that we consider successes. And we just want you to do so as well, because it is a journey and there's lots of components in the job search. And that's why we have various topics in each and every session. So we welcome you sharing with us online, as well as in the future, any successes that you have achieved. So with that, we are ready to begin our program. I'm going to introduce Caroline Francis, who will introduce our guest panelists for the day.
Want to verify that our technology is ready to go. Oops, I didn't hear that. Again, welcome to Job Club today. We are delighted to have those in person and beyond join us for our panel. This is always one of our most popular sessions where we get to hear from recruiters and people who are in HR positions what they're seeing from their side of the table. And it is a crazy time to be in the world of hiring right now with the great success resignation and what's going on in this time with so many people in flux. So we have a wonderful panel of experts. I'm going to have each panelist begin by sharing their name and what company they're representing today. And at the end, they'll each have an opportunity to share job leads. So Nicole, if you'd begin.
Sure. Alrighty, can you guys hear me? Alrighty, great. Okay, so I'm Nicole Waite, and I work here at the University of Kentucky in employment, and specifically with STEPS temporary employment. So glad to see you guys today.
Michael?
Yep. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Michael Giarraputo. I'm the Vice President of Marketing at Brainbox Immersive Marketing. I think the folks were very generous in saying HR expert. I wouldn't consider myself an HR expert. I'm not actually in HR, but I have hired many people through the years in the advertising and marketing field. And Brainbox is what I would call a marketing solutions company or agency, if you will. And we work with clients and agencies directly to assess what their marketing needs are and then put programs together, customized programs together. We work with the U.S. Marine Corps, also do some work with the U.S. Army. We just got Body Armor, the sports drink, as an account. And we're excited to kind of offer experiential and event marketing as well as social and digital. So Brainbox Immersive Marketing is a relatively new name. I helped rebrand the company because I think it better reflects what we offer to companies. So we take a more holistic approach to marketing solutions for major national advertisers and sponsors.
Thank you, Janette.
Hi, my name is Janette Hodges. I'm from Central Bank. I'm actually the recruitment specialist at Central Bank. So it's myself, and then there's another lady that works in recruitment, and we hire for all of the jobs at Central Bank. Central Bank is one of the largest privately owned banks here in Central Kentucky. Most of our branches are here in Lexington, but we do have outer markets. So we're also in Northern Kentucky, Louisville, Georgetown, Nicholasville, and Madison County as well. So like I said, most of our branches are going to be here in Lexington. I think we actually have 14 branches here. We're just Central Kentucky, so we're not outside of this state. I do all of the recruitment for most of our positions, which typically we're just hiring for tellers. That's typically the entry level position that we have. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you, Dustin.
Hi, good morning. My name is Dustin Lewis. I am a recruiter for Actalent. We are the global talent acquisition agency. I work out of the Lexington office here. We are one of 9 companies underneath the Legis Group, based out of Baltimore, Maryland, umbrella. Used to be Aerotech. We recently broke away. My division did. I'm on our engineering side and became Actalent just a couple months ago. So happy to be here today. But we do a lot of staffing for a lot of the automotive companies in Kentucky. Toyota, Ford, Hitachi are our 3 biggest clients. We hire everything from entry-level engineers all the way to plant managers. So a wide variety of skill sets. So happy to be here today.
Great. Now our first question for the panelists. How has COVID changed recruiting efforts for your company? And also comment if you're seeing within your company the great resignation movement, what you're seeing in your hiring trends as well as the COVID impact. And Dustin, why don't you begin on that one?
Sure. One big change that I've seen is that we do everything by phone now. We used to, when we would have somebody apply for a job, or we would reach out to somebody about an opening, we would have them drive all the way to our office and interview them in person, just to, not so much an interview, but just kind of a get to know you, find out what their goals, skills, and interests were, and then determine who they would be a fit for. But now everything's done over the phone. It's kind of a blessing and a curse. I enjoy meeting people in person. I feel like I get a better feel for who they are, you know, what kind of fit they would be for our clients. But on the flip side, it's made us very efficient. We don't have, it's taken one step out of our process now and just made it easier to screen more candidates. So hasn't really hurt our company any, to be honest with you. So haven't really seen anything from a trends perspective. So
Michael, would you like to share on that?
Sure.
How COVID's impacted and what you're seeing?
Yeah, we as a matter of policy, we had everybody stop in pre-COVID. Then we switched all the way to virtual meetings and interviews up until recently. Now that we're back to the office, and we started in June partially, and as of August, we're back full-time here in Lexington. We offer a choice to our candidates, whether they want to come into the office is always available to us because we're all screened and put proper COVID protocols in place. But if the candidate is more comfortable in a virtual environment, we offer that as well. So that's a change to what we had done before. No preferences, as Dustin said, more advantages, disadvantages to each. But we want to make it an easy and comfortable environment where people can be confident. So we offer that choice these days.
Great. Nicole, would you like to add anything?
Certainly. Just to basically mimic what has already been said, we too have moved more towards virtual interviews, Zoom, things like that, of course. But as I said, what has already been mentioned, we do offer in-person interviews as well, implementing, like I said, safety protocols with the University, which the University of Kentucky has put in place for many of us using for in-person interviews, of course, plexiglass, things like that we have here today. So yeah, but honestly, as what we've seen is an increase in screening because we give that option. We have more people, who are still hesitant, even though those protocols are in place. So, but we have actually had an increase in screening as we went virtual. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Janette?
Yeah, and kind of going back to what they are saying, we've gone kind of virtual as well. We used to do, the same kind of introductory interviews, and we've gone to just doing phone interviews before the actual in-person. So we're only doing one in-person interview versus having multiple. And then also, our major recruitment for our positions were the career fairs. And so that kind of took a hit on us when those all went virtual. And so we dived into that and we went, into those virtual career fairs, but they weren't the same. You get to meet so many people at those career fairs. And so having just 10 minutes for, with 10 students is not the same kind of experience. So we really miss those, and we have gone back during this fall season to those career fairs. And it's definitely been really nice to see everybody's faces and be able to talk to people in person. We have seen, like what you said with the resignations, we're actually competing with a lot of other companies that we have never competed with before. So our entry-level position is now paying what a lot of other companies are paying just at like fast food restaurants and things like that. So we've had to get really creative in our recruitment efforts and what we used to do and kind of flip it on its head and do some things that are not really traditional for us to do in terms of our recruitment. And that was, offering sign-on bonuses, which we've never done in the past, and looking at experience in a new way. We used to only pay for, bank experience. Now we're looking at just retail experience. So COVID definitely took a hit on us in terms of how we recruit and how we go out into the communities that we used to do. And that wasn't available anymore to us. So
Let's switch to resumes. If I could have each of you address what gets your attention on a resume, what types of resumes do you like to see? And also if there's anything people should be cautious of that could get them screened out. I'd like for each panelist to address this. Let's begin with Nicole, resume advice.
Alrighty. So very good question. Skills. This has been a really good, let's just say really good bullet points listed on your resume, because as already kind of spoken here about from a recruiter here at Central Baptist on the panel, those have become key, not so much it's just having the experience. And I specifically do more hiring on the healthcare side. And so, as she mentioned, we have to become a little more creative to see if someone is resilient or if someone has not necessarily skills in healthcare, but if they have customer service skills, things like that. So skills have really been making that bold has been really helpful.
Okay, so I'm hearing focused skills on your resume. Make sure your relevant transferable skills are loud and clear. Michael?
Personal preference here. If you're just starting out, I would say if your contact information at the top, have a goal. What's your career goal? All right. It just tells me that you've thought about yourself personally and your career path, and make it relevant, of course, to the role that you're pursuing. If you have a lot of experience, instead of a goal, I would turn that into a professional summary. And so often candidates don't do that. They just get right into the bullet points, as it were. But so I like to see a career goal for someone who's relatively new or just starting out, and then for a more experienced person, a career summary right up front.
I agree with having the profile or summary at the top. I think that's one way to date yourself. If you're maybe a mid or late career job seeker, and if you do not have a showcase a summary or a profile at the top, I think it dates your resume a bit, which we certainly don't want. Janette?
So I'm going to touch on something that I don't like to see on resumes, which I've started to see more often, is photos. So as recruiters in HR, like we're trained not to look at gender, not to look at ethnicity, and to just focus on that skill set. So when you put your photo up there, it automatically brings our attention to it. So I would say that's a personal preference, but I would say don't put a photo on your resume, focus on that skill set that you have. We really focus on experience. So having dates, the date ranges, instead of just putting a year, and I have to just kind of guess how long you were in that position or how long that, you had those skill sets. So definitely make it well organized and include those dates. Usually a month with a year is really nice for us to see on there.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of pull back the curtain a little bit on our industry. So in any given day, I'm looking at 100 resumes, and you've always heard, and always heard before I got into hiring, most HR professionals or recruiters spend 15 to 20 minutes or 20 seconds looking at a resume. And it's so true because we move pretty fast. And so one thing, and this might be more of a personal preference, but I do not like paragraphs underneath a job entry on a resume. 3 to 5 bullet points will work. It just makes it so much easier for me to kind of glance at really quick and get a feel for what a candidate did at a particular job. When I have to sit there and read a book underneath each job entry, it's so time consuming. And I'll be honest, there's been times when if a candidate has that, like a paragraph block style underneath a job entry, I move on. I don't have the time of day to read a book. So yeah, definitely bullet points and are a big thing for me underneath on a resume.
So I hear bullets are good.
Yes, bullets are very good.
Let's move on to interviewing tips from this side of the table. We have the experts here that interview a lot. Let's hear some advice on Zoom interviews. They're so common right now. What advice would you give on Zoom interviews? And I'm just going to open up to our panelists. So if one or two of our panelists would share some tips with our far-reaching audience on how to best prepare for Zoom interviews.
I'll start.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think we all have opinions on that.
Well, I would say come to a Zoom interview as if you're coming to an actual in-person interview. I don't know how many times we've had a Zoom interview and the person, one time we had somebody take us on a walk with their dog. And it's convenient, I get it, but they were distracted and it was sometimes hard to hear. They were in athletic wear. So just, come prepared with the same kind of mindset that you would if you're coming to an in-person interview. We're doing it out of obviously convenience and the fact that we don't want to bring people in with COVID and everything, but kind of bring in the same mindset that you would to an in-person interview. So dress the part, have questions prepared, relate your experience to the job and the skill sets that you are going to be bringing into that position. Test your technology, make sure that your microphone and that your cameras working. The camera portion is really important. If you're not going to be able to meet in person, we want to be able to see you. So we've had people come into a Zoom interview. We didn't see them the entire time, and it kind of defeated the purpose. We could have just called them, to do that interview. So yeah, just be prepared if you're coming into that.
I want to jump on one point you just said about testing the technology. Test the platform as well. I mean, we're saying Zoom here, but Zoom is kind of the euphemism for all virtual meetings. So some might prefer Google Meet, or some invite you on Teams. Make sure you have that software or access to that website and test it out in advance, right? There's nothing worse than starting on the wrong foot and with a technology problem. So not just the platform that you may be familiar with, but just understand what you're being asked to do and have that already vetted before the time begins.
Nicole?
Alrighty, certainly, I believe both here on the panel have spoke exactly what I was going to speak about, which is lighting and sound. This is actually, it may not sound crucial, but it is. So once again, testing out your technology, but also, as mentioned, dressing the part. I believe I've heard a story where someone actually got up, and of course, some people are getting used to dress at the top and not at the bottom. So yeah, being sure to, just mimicking what they've mentioned, be sure to dress the part, and it actually helps mentally also, not just that physical appearance, but it puts you yourself actually in more of a, interview mindset also. So something that we definitely learned from our UK team here in social work. So
Justin, do you have anything to add to that?
One thing we've had candidates not get hired because they sit too close to the camera, and it's like an up close, sit back a little bit just so they can see your whole upper torso. So that would be everyone else kind of hit on some points.
And then we do a lot of mock interviews with alumni career services and backgrounds. Please be careful with backgrounds, simple, or use a background screen. You do not want a lot going on in your background. Keep it simple. Let's move on to a little more in depth about the interview. Share with us some common features that successful candidates do when they interview. What are some of the things that they do well? And also, what are some common interview questions that everyone should be prepared to answer at all times? I'd like for you to each chime in on this area. Nicole?
Sure. I would say a question, being prepared to answer. I would say availability, flexibility, especially now. That's been a common question, as some of our, of course, some of our positions are virtual, some are in person. So being prepared to answer that question. Oh, let's see here. And then
Successful job candidates, what do they do here that makes them stand out?
You know what, honestly, and this is a fine line, in my opinion, is asking questions, following up with the interview, because we also, we want to know that you actually paid attention and not that you're just kind of shooting off and just, I've had a coworker who mentioned that she felt more interviewed than given an interview. So it's okay to ask questions. We want you to ask questions, but, being mindful not to ask too many where you're interviewing the person that's interviewing you.
Okay.
So I feel that those people have been successful who are really listening and asking those follow-up questions.
Okay, so a couple of good questions at the end. We should always be prepared to answer. Michael?
Yep. Showing and demonstrating some energy and some attention, that's always important. It always leaves a good impression. Again, on the questions, oftentimes you hear, because it's a dialogue most of the time, candidates may say, well, you've answered all my questions. Well, no. I mean, you should always have something else to ask. It just keeps the conversation going and it shows initiative. I'd also say, just kind of moving into the other, I only ask one standard question. I always ask multiple questions, but one standard question I always ask to a candidate is, where do they see themselves in 5 years? I like to know that they've thought about not only their career path, as I mentioned earlier, but where they see themselves potentially at this company. And I usually get intrigued by the answers there. Most of the other times, it's not a stock question. It's something I found in their resume or something that they said that I respond to and ask subsequent questions. And that's usually the way I conduct the interviews.
Janette?
Yeah, so this is pretty basic, but showing up on time to your interview is definitely going to make or break. Usually, if you're going to be really late, at least let your interviewer know. We've had people show up like half an hour to an hour later and expect to still be in the same, situation and be able to interview. So show up on time, show up early, but not too early. We've had some people show up an hour early and that could cause a conflict as well, especially if we have back-to-back interviews. Try to be calm and collected. I know it's hard when you're going into an interview for a job, you do have those nerves, but practice beforehand, that will help. I've been through a lot of interviews and I've interviewed a lot of people, and I can say most of the interviews that I've conducted and been a part of were situational interviews. So most of the questions I was asked is, give me a time when you did this, or tell me about a time when you demonstrated this skill. So try to think back on your experience. That would be my tip as far as types of questions that you might experience during an interview. Go ahead and try to think back on your personal work experience. And with students, we have a lot of times they don't have a lot of built up history. So even think back on your school and how that can translate into a skill set, because during those interviews are most likely going to be those situational questions. And so they're going to ask you to give them a time and demonstrate that skill through that experience.
I'll say one thing, definitely do your homework on the company before you interview, be able to answer why you want to work for them. And I'll give you a perfect example of a client that we deal with. We do a lot of hiring for Hitachi Automotive. And there's two Hitachis in Kentucky. There's one in Harrodsburg, Kentucky, and there's one in Berea. They're both automotive, but they're completely different environments. Berea is more fast-paced, a hot and dirty plant, whereas Harrodsburg is it moves fast, but it's a little bit more laid back. It's a cleaner facility. We've had entry-level engineers from UK interview both places, and they're just, for the same job, and they've gotten in the interview room and haven't been able to adequately answer that question, why Harrodsburg versus Berea. So the more you know about a company, their culture, going into interview, it's only going to help you. So.
We always encourage our clients to be able to clearly answer and confidently answer the tell me about yourself question, which usually opens the interview. Being able to start the interview off on a strong foot, sharing relevant strengths, relevant past work history, and why you want the position. Back to the behavioral interviewing questions. We touch upon this in some of our job club meetings on more in depth on interviewing, but the acronym STAR is important to remember when you're answering those behavioral or situational interview questions. That acronym stands for, when you're answering, give them the situation or task, action, and result, ideally with some metrics, but being very specific about a time when you were in a similar situation. Also, we always encourage clients to have a strong closing. To be able to sell yourself one more time on what are 2 or 3 things that you would like the interview team to know about you when they're making that final decision. Let's talk about social media now, panelists. How do you all recruit? Do you look at LinkedIn profiles? Share with us your social media strategy, and we'll just let a couple of the panelists chime in on that and how their company uses social media and LinkedIn in the recruiting and hiring process. Michael, why don't you begin on that one, because I bet you all use it quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Given that we do a lot of social and digital marketing. LinkedIn is probably your single most important resource. I find that we post jobs on there. We're always looking at comp type salaries and other kind of salary bands. We're always using that tool for a variety of things. And you should have a current profile, an accurate profile, and you should be using that as well. We use that religiously. So if someone doesn't have their LinkedIn address on their resume, I'm still going to search for you anyway. And that brings up to mind that there's a phrase I always use in recruiting people and telling people about what you do in marketing. And it's always like the sales reference. We're all in sales, right? We may not be toting a briefcase and going door to door, but you're always selling yourself your ideas. Well, I'm now in this panel going to state a new axiom. You're all in marketing. And I just realized that. In the world of social media, you are your own brand. So it's not just going to stop at your LinkedIn profile professionally. I'm going to be looking at your profile on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, because I'm going to try to find out what I can about you. So the way you reflect yourself is your own brand. So while, again, LinkedIn is probably the preeminent source, and I always start there, we are, and can't speak for everybody, going to check you out everywhere. So keep that in mind when you're making application, when you're doing a job search, because it's all information that we can use to assess one candidate's relative strengths or weaknesses versus another.
And I'm assuming you all list your jobs on LinkedIn as well.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of you do.
Mhm.
Okay, Dustin, you chime in on that as well. From a
Yeah,
recruiter perspective.
our company made a heavy investment in the LinkedIn Recruiter this past year, and it's been of immense value to me. I mean, the software we use on a day-to-day basis pulls resumes from, Career Builder, Monster, Indeed, but it's been a great supplement to our internal software. I love the way that it lays out. It's like a virtual resume almost, especially with a lot of the companies that require a degree. It's very easy to list that on there, and it's made my job, very easy. But one thing I will say, make sure that you have a professional looking photo. I don't know how many times I've passed over a candidate because they're, at the arcade or at a bar or something, taking a selfie of themselves. I'm like, I'm moving on if I'm seeing that. So yeah, definitely use a professional headshot for your LinkedIn profile.
We also encourage clients to make sure they have turned on the button on LinkedIn that they're willing to let recruiters to network with recruiters. It's a great additional resource. Attended a conference last month and met two people that had found their jobs during COVID on LinkedIn when they weren't actively looking. They were passively on LinkedIn and were contacted by recruiters. So you just never know when you might be contacted by a recruiter. We have a question from the audience. Go ahead, Amanda.
Yeah, we have a question from the online audience. How much detail would you recommend pertaining to those job responsibilities on LinkedIn, those bullet points? What are your thoughts?
I didn't hear the last part.
Have you repeat the question, Amanda?
How much detail pertaining to job responsibilities do you think is appropriate on LinkedIn?
Okay. How much detail is appropriate regarding your job responsibilities in those bullets on your resume and on LinkedIn? How much should they share?
I'm always good with 3 to 5 of your main job responsibilities. One thing I will say, don't list every single thing you do. That's again, time consuming for me. And, obviously most people have more than 3 to 5 job responsibilities, but just make sure you pick the right ones. And I would say the same for your LinkedIn profile. Although more so on LinkedIn, I'm looking more at, the progressive skill sets or job titles are huge in my industry. So I'm looking at, what you did here, and then if you moved into a management role and so on. So yeah, just a few of them, and just make sure they're succinct and, make sense.
Let's talk about age discrimination in the job search. What advice would you have for people maybe 40 plus in their job search that could help make them as marketable as possible and to combat any issues of potential age discrimination? Who would like to share on that?
I'll start. So I've said it before, but don't add a photo to your resume. I don't like to see them whether you're younger or older, but adding that would add some unconscious bias, most likely on that recruiter's part. Also, if you, especially in our industry, technology, I'm sure it's in all industries, but you're going to be working on several different software systems. And so, you know, if you have those skill sets, be sure to list those. If you've got computer skills, put that on your resume. Because if we do, you know, sometimes you can't avoid it, especially if you're listing, you know, your degrees and when you achieve those. If it was back in the 80s, we're probably going to, you know, assume you're older. But if you have those skill sets put on your resume, then that's going to kind of indicate to me, it doesn't matter how old you are, as long as you've got the skill set, that's all I'm going to pay attention to.
Anyone else want to share on that? We also encourage candidates not to put dates of graduations on their resume, to definitely include a profile or a summary, and really only highlight the last 10 or 15 years of your work experience or the most relevant. It does not have to be your entire work history that you're including, especially on the resume. Michael, anything you would add?
Let's see, a little more of an abstract thought. Skills are important, as was said before, but relevant experience is really important. And what's the distinction? You know, I like to say, your data is good and you could move mountains of data and you could be really good at it and really efficient. That's a skill. Data is good, insights are better. And I believe that in the day-to-day practice. And how that applies here is tell me that you know how to glean, you know, actionable insights from things. If you've done it, if you have experience in let's say, using this example, working with data and coming up with solutions or ideas or insights that can then drive a project forward, that is valuable, and that may come with experience. So don't be afraid to take that next step and say how you have you know, utilize some skills that may be very common to do something that maybe years of experience have provided you with. And that's a way to do it without getting into, you know, age and you know, other you know, date factors, as was mentioned.
Let's talk about salary, and then we do have a question from the audience we'll gather next. People are very uncomfortable when they're asked, you know, what salary you're expecting or any questions regarding salary during the interview process or the screening process. What advice would you have for candidates when it comes to the big salary shuffle discussion early on and then perhaps later? Nicole?
Good question. No, you're fine. I was going to say that's a good question. One that often comes up. I would say it, and this may sound really simple, but honesty. You know, most jobs, of course, have some jobs, I should say, have the range, the salary range, or something like that listed, but some do not. So doing some research, maybe even some research of maybe with the same job with other companies, similar job with other companies, I should say. But asking about yourself, I mean, that's the purpose of the interview. So I know it's a weird question, but bringing it up is not bad at all. And as Carolyn has mentioned, it is going to come up again. You don't want to not ask about it and not sell yourself, but at the same time, the reason I think it's good to, like I said, research to see what you're getting into is because you don't want your expectations to be, you know, more than what the company is actually offering for that position. So
Who else would like to add a different perspective or to supplement that?
I'll go. You know, part of my industry is a little different. I'm kind of like a job agent for a lot of these candidates, so I'm tied at the hip with them when it comes to salary. The more money they make, the more money I'm going to make. So if you're ever working with a recruiter or a talent agency, just be upfront from the beginning. You know, how much you would need to leave your current job, or you know, just kind of what your thoughts are there. Because there's nothing worse for me if I get somebody an offer after they've told me 2 or 3 times, you know, how much money they're looking for, and then they turn the offer down or they come back with a counter offer, because then we have to go back to the client and kind of you know, negotiate that on their behalf. So if you can, you know, just be upfront at the very beginning, it just saves us a lot of kind of grief on the back end.
Okay. And let's kind of round it out here with what advice would you have for following up once someone has interviewed for a position? How do you like to be followed up with? How frequently? How soon? Maybe one or two of you could address that question.
I'd say sending an email after you've either had an interview would be nice. I mean, I like to see that. It shows that you really do have an interest in our company and you didn't just show up just to show up. However, you know, there is a kind of a fine line, and reaching out too soon, you know, sending a thank you email is great, but then, you know, if I just interviewed you a couple days ago and you're already following up with me, the chances are I have other interviews. And so I would say give it an appropriate amount of time before, you know, you're reaching out, trying to get a response from me as to, you know, did I get the job, or is, you know, or what is the process? But that's a really good question to ask in your interview also, is when can I hear back from you? I always ask that question in interviews when I'm being interviewed. So that's a really good question, so that you can kind of know on your end when you can or should follow up. So if that interviewer tells you, you know, we should be making a decision next Friday, wait at least until next Friday. And if you don't hear back, I think at that point, feel free to reach out to them and say, you know, I was told, you know, that I should hear something back. I haven't yet. Can you provide me with any more details on this position?
All right, we do have one question from the audience. If we could have that person stand and ask their question. And then online, if you have a question from our online audience, go ahead and put that in the chat box and we'll send those up as well.
Test. Can you hear me?
Maybe.
Somewhat.
I have a pretty loud voice.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I actually have two questions now. One pertains to the aging and the experience. My situation is my company closed in June. I've worked there for 25 years, from customer service to marketing manager. So how do I express all these skill sets that I have on my resume? I have my last 3 major positions listed, but I have the total dates. I'm proud of that. An employer who's looking to recruit somebody may look at my resume and say, oh, 25 years. Is that a negative? Is it a positive? What are your opinions on that?
So I see it as a positive.
Yes.
In my industry. We really want to put our time and energy into people who are going to stay with us and kind of, you know, build either a career, or even if they're not moving up that ladder, that just are going to be loyal to us. So if I see someone who was at a company for 25 years, I'm going to want you to come and work at my company for another 25 years.
Absolutely.
I'm available for hire.
Yes, absolutely. I would love to mimic exactly what she said. Even speaking so much, I should say, speaking directly towards executive positions, higher admin positions, things like that. I mean, we would love it. So, yeah.
I would say that's a real positive for me.
Okay, great.
You know, because if not, then I have no chance of getting another job in the future. So
Actually, we have a term at
I have some years on you too, so
Hey,
yeah, I have to think positively.
Same. So then my next question is about salary. I just started looking again. I took a little time off, and I'm looking on Indeed and I'm looking on LinkedIn. And I noticed that a lot of these job postings don't post a salary. A lot of the entry-level type jobs will. But I'll see something that appeals to me. I think, you know, we could be a good match, and there's no salary listed. So when I go to fill out an application and they ask me for salary information or what do I expect, and I've only applied for 2 just this in the past week. One of them had the range. So I set a pretty broad range. One of them wanted to be specific. After 25 years of employment, I made a pretty good salary. I don't want to price myself out. Do you have any advice? I mean, if there's a range of salary that I could choose, should I choose a $20,000, $30,000 range? You know, a little bit below, a little bit above what I previously made? Should I anticipate taking a pay cut?
I think it goes back, I think someone had mentioned maybe doing some research on that kind of position. And there are, websites out there that will give you kind of a range, and you can kind of base that on your own experience and what you bring to the table to kind of gauge that. I know with us on our applications, we do ask for a specific number of what you would require to come work for us. If it's above what we would offer, we send out a courtesy email and let you know what you requested is too high. And so then it leaves it in your hands to kind of reach back out to us and say, well, I would take less. I don't know that all companies do that. And so I can't really speak to that, but I would just say maybe just do some research behind it before you go in with a specific number.
I'll say know your value too. I feel like maybe for like a higher level position, we do hire a lot of engineering managers. If you price yourself too low, to me, that says, one, you don't know your value, you don't know what the market's offering. So that scares me a little. So I've turned away candidates before. And it just, I'll be honest with you, as a recruiter, I'm going to tell you eventually how much, if you apply for a job through actalentservices.com, I'm going to tell you how much we can pay. You'll never have to worry about that. So
Good questions. And typically in that screening interview, it's often the screener in the first interview will say, this position pays in this range. Are you still interested in being considered and moving forward?
Absolutely.
So it saves everyone's time, which I appreciate. We have a couple of online questions, Amanda.
I've got them. The first one, how do you get your resume in front of the HR person or recruiter and not get kicked out by an algorithm on the
So how do you get your resume in front of a person and get through the applicant tracking computer systems? Any advice? I say keywords. Anything in that job description that you have done or can do, be sure include in your resume and application and LinkedIn profile. Anything else you'd recommend?
I mean, I would say one thing for me, if you're not remotely qualified for a position, don't apply. That just wastes everyone's time. I mean, I don't know how many times I kick out. I mean, you'll get through our system, I'll get your application, but then I'll spend 2 minutes looking at your resume or your profile in our system and just be like, why is this person applying? Like you don't check the top 3 skill sets for this position in any way. So definitely always tailor your resume to the particular job posting. I know it's a little more time consuming, but it works wonders for sure.
Good advice. So appreciate our panel. I'm going to let them each close by giving a 30-second commercial for their company and what they might be hiring or sourcing for at the moment. Dustin, why don't you begin?
Sure. Well, I know I've sat up here and talked a lot about engineering because that's the division I'm in, but we have 3 companies here in Lexington. We still have Aerotech. That's our, industrial jobs, skilled trades, Actalent, which is engineering and sciences. But then we have a 3rd company called Aston Carter. Those are your marketing jobs. Those are your administrative jobs, your call centers. We're always posting new positions on our website, actalentservices.com. I definitely, recruiters get labeled as headhunters. I don't look at myself that way. I look at myself as kind of your agent. My job is to put you in the best position for your career. So even if we don't have a position open, you send me your resume, we can blast it out to our whole territory. And a lot of times we place people that way. There's jobs that we don't know that are available yet that are getting ready to come open. And this marketing manager fits well for this company because they're getting ready to hire for that because someone's getting ready to retire. So we definitely can be an advocate for you.
So as I mentioned before, typically what we're hiring for is our teller position. We're actually posting for our next teller class on Friday. So that class will actually start in October. The unique thing about Central Bank is that we promote from within. And so many of our higher level positions above a teller are going to be posted internally first, because most of the time we are going to have the talent within our own employees that we can promote. So if you have prior banking or even any kind of retail experience, we welcome that. If you've never been in banking before, a teller position is a great position to be in because you kind of get exposed to all the different departments. And there's so much more to banking than just retail. There's a lot of back office jobs that you would never think of. We have a marketing and IT department. cybersecurity, we've got physical security department. So there's a lot of different avenues you can go in banking. And so if that's something that even remotely interests you, that teller position is really going to give you a good foundation and expose you to all those different departments so that you can kind of make that choice for yourself of what direction you would want to take that in. Or if you want to stay in retail, we welcome anybody that wants to remain in retail. There's their own path. You know, you can become a branch manager or move up that ladder. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities. It's just getting your foot in the door. So starting as that teller and then kind of working your way in whatever direction you want to go in.
I'll say at Brainbox, we have an ongoing need for activation managers. And I say that because, as I mentioned before, we conduct events, experiential and event marketing programs for our clients, and those are year round. And we're always looking for activation managers to help us with that on the operations side. On the side that I'm mostly involved with, which is the marketing, sales, and digital, we've been growing that area, particularly in the last 2 years. So I'm personally always looking for sales coordinators, people in the digital and social media space who can be a coordinator / manager, and also more traditional integrated marketing. Again, coordinator and manager levels. So we always tend to look for talent in those areas as well. And as we're growing, we're always finding some more needs that we have because we want to grow the company even more.
All right. Okay. So once again, I work in temporary employment with the University of Kentucky, within the University of Kentucky. I'm actually an employment specialist in that department. And let's see here. As far as job leads, we have many. We have several job leads in our department, ranging from, well, I should say both for campus and healthcare. I know I mentioned that I specifically help to hire for healthcare, but I work with both teams. And so administrative assistant positions, we have a couple of those: medical records coordinator, patient relations, certified medical assistants. There are several. And so what I'm going to do, I actually sent those jobs to Amanda, since I am a part of Job Club also. And so we're going to ask that you watch your email, I should say, for those job leads and updates. And so we have direct links for you to be able to apply to those positions. And just to mention steps, what steps is, we are student and temporary placement employment. And so that means we don't just cater, of course, to students, we cater to regular applicants and candidates as well. One really good thing about steps is that it allows you to get real life experience, in that job, in that position. And taking those skills, as Carolyn has mentioned about transferable skills, taking those skills, whether you're applying at the University of Kentucky for career employment or outside of the University of Kentucky, but those are real skills that you're able to use. One thing that I do like to point out to candidates when interviewing is that, once you've learned those skills here at the university and your ultimate goal is to, to get a permanent position, you know our systems. Whether it's payroll, marketing, whatever it may be, IT, the systems, you've done the networking. And so you kind of have this leg up as was spoke about our Central Baptist representative Central Bank representative down here. You have those skills, you've been there internally. And so that's really a really great pitch when it's time to interview. And it is very, looked at very carefully there. It stands out, I should say. So SEX is a great place to work. A lot of people do ask while working in temporary employment, or I should say, sometimes it can be looked at, I guess, kind of frowned upon. It's like, hold on, I don't want to get into a temporary position, but I do want to mention that these temporary positions, they are not just short term. We do have long term positions also. And if you work at least 30 hours per week, you do qualify for medical, dental, and vision insurance. And so we do have many employees that may have come here from out of town. They may have a spouse that's relocated and they're looking for jobs or something like that, and they'll come to STEPS for employment. Like I said, once again, gain those skills, and whether they use them there or outside. It's just a really, really great place to get started or while you're in transition. So,
Well, let's hear for our panelists. Thank you so much for sharing today. And I'll have Diana Doggett return to the lectern.
So we are Q&A. Do we have any more questions that we'd like to cover? We're going to just move on and make sure that we invite our our employers to send in active job leads no later than noon today so that we can get those out in our email. And I believe we do have a guest here today who would like to present. So we will be helping you. Do I have a name here? I'm so sorry. We'll let her introduce herself. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Mary Beth Bracken. I'm an executive recruiter for the University of Kentucky. And really, I'm here to represent the career employment team. I also want to encourage you for the STEPS positions because I know many of them are the step in the door to full-time employment. We have so many success stories from that. Our Associate Chief Human Resource Officer started in STEPS, and that's just a tiny example. We have lots and lots of examples. So a good way to get your foot in the door if you do want to work at the University of Kentucky. As far as career employment jobs, our job postings are through the roof. We have so many, the range from just starting level jobs, entry level jobs, all the way up to executive level jobs. So my advice is to watch that job board, which is www.uky.edu/jobs. You can also just go on the website, the uky.edu website, and search jobs, and it will come up. I would encourage you to check once a week. Our job openings are always posted for at least 7 days, most of the time longer. So if you just say every Tuesday, I'm going to go on there and see what they have. And I think that's a good way to just kind of keep in mind the new positions because we post, how many posts? I would say some days it's 80 positions a day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, there is a wide variety of jobs, and also in STEPS, it's not all entry level positions. There are all type of positions in STEPS. I have seen some really one-off positions that have been posted for them that there is a high skill level. So I would encourage that as well. Thank you for letting me promote UK.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Beth.
Thank you, Mary Beth. I would say when we started Job Club 8 years ago, one of the number one questions is how can I get on to UK? And so we are delighted that Nicole has joined us representing UK STEPS, temporary employment, and we really encourage you to visit that website. The rest of the recruiters, we've had some calls this morning that plan to post their job leads on our newsletter, so look for that. And those of you that want to do so, have those to us by noon today at UK Alumni Career at uky.edu. And we'll include them in our post-meeting job lead list. So now it's time for our Job Club Facilitator news and programs. And we will begin. I will just say on behalf of Cooperative Extension that I encourage you to visit your local extension office. I was in an office yesterday in another county and just looking at all the programs that were scheduled, and as well as here at Fayette County. So we've got lots of fall programming that has planned for you, a lot of resources, and we will just encourage you to look at those sites in each and every county to see which program best suits you and your interest. And now we'll have some updates from UK Human Resources. Caroline?
Thank you, Nicole, for sharing yours earlier. I'd like to let our audience know UK Alumni Career Services are available to active and life members of the UK Alumni Association Anyone can join if you would like individual career assistance. There'll be more information in your follow-up correspondence. Next time at Job Club, September the 28th, our program will be LinkedIn Best Practices for Networking Success. As we've heard from our panel today, LinkedIn is critical for professional development and especially a job search. Backed by popular demand is Tamika Tempulides from UK, Lewis Honors College, excellent presenter on LinkedIn. So we hope our audience will join both in person and virtual. Thank you again for joining us today for Job Club. Our in-person components will have networking afterwards and resume reviews. Thank you for our virtual audience. We hope to see you in 2 weeks.